Hello, this is Jordan, and this video is being recorded on Friday, April 8th, 2022. Happy Friday, everyone. In this video, I'm going to discuss how you can find 10-bagger silver stocks. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. And I have one chart for this video, and unfortunately, it's going to be me talking for most of the video with only one image here, but I discussed the technical setup before, and at least in the next, let's say 3, 6, or 9 months, it's a more bullish setup for gold because of the fact that it really has limited overhead resistance. It only has resistance now daily and weekly around, we could say daily is close to 2100. I mean, weekly, I think if you're using weekly closing levels, it might be 1950, 1960, but basically, gold has already overcome the most significant resistance at 1900. So gold is in a position to really accelerate when it breaks above 2100. Silver, on the other hand, it's dealing with 27, 28, very significant resistance there. This is the quarterly chart. It's tested 27 in 6 of the last 7 quarters. And my guess is we need to see gold break 2100 first, and then then at that point we'll see silver catch up and break above 28 to 30. Looking further out, potentially we could see that measured upside target, that $3,000 gold, coincide with $50 silver or something close to it. So that's kind of my guess at this point. I do see gold having potential to hit 4,000, as I've talked about, before 2025. And at that point, I assume that not only will silver have reached 50, it'll probably broken 50. But for the most part, I'm basically using $50 silver as my target, potential valuation target for assessing silver stocks and their upside potential over the next 2 to 3 years or so. Now, first, let's talk about the types of silver companies because they're all valued differently. We have exploration companies, and we have exploration, which are optionality, which that's on the low grade side. So anything that's lower grade, I basically consider that an optionality play. And then you have the producers. Now, I was much bigger into the producers in the mid to late 2000s. You had a nice group of junior producers that had a lot of production growth coming. So those stocks, or at least that group within the sector, to me was the best play. At this point in time, I think exploration and explorers are really the better play. Silver, we've had this devastating bear market. It's really been, it hasn't done that much. The price has risen, but it's only risen for a couple months here and there sharply. So it's been very difficult. So there's fewer silver companies. There's definitely far fewer silver producers. So I could be wrong, but I'm underwhelmed with the junior producers now with respect to silver. But for the ones that are out there and the ones that come up and go public in the next year or so, what you really want to find, it's all about production growth. So we're looking at who has the fastest production growth. And so these are just thresholds that I would look for. Are there companies that they're producing 1 or 2 million ounces, and in 2 or 3 years they're going to be producing 7 million ounces or more? Are there companies that are producing 2, 3, or maybe 4 million ounces now that have potential to get to 10 or higher in the next couple of years? Those are the types of companies. As far as junior silver producers, those are the ones that you want to find. I don't think, there might only be 1 or 2 out there. I'm not sure. I'm less keen on this group right now, but it's all about production growth. And those are the levels and the thresholds that you want to look at if you want to find companies that have that 10-bagger potential. Okay, now we're talking about exploration companies and the more ones that have high-grade potential. And so this criteria, I noticed this criteria, recently, but also in August 2020 at the market peak. I've done some premium updates talking about how these silver exploration companies are valued, and it's pretty simple to understand. These silver projects are really about grade. That's the key threshold, then size. And so if we're looking if you want to get that billing or that valuation as a high grade silver exploration company, your grade has to be pretty close to 200 grams per ton silver. That's a minimum. And then when we're looking at size, it's really, 100 million ounces is the key threshold. 50 million if you're on the smaller side. So those are the thresholds that you want to look at. For size, 50 million ounces, 100 million ounces. And then for grade, a minimum around 200 grams per ton silver. And because I noticed that the companies that fit these parameters, they are or were being valued at $3 or $4 per ounce in the ground. And so my thinking was, okay, if they're valued at $3 or $4 per ounce in the ground with silver at 28 to 30, at $50 silver, they could be valued at potentially $10 per ounce in the ground. So what that means is if you have a 100 million ounce silver deposit and the grade is 200 grams per ton, that probably is going to be valued at $1 billion if we see $50 silver in the next couple of years. So that's really the major key threshold that I'm looking at. Now, this is very important before I get to the next slide. When we're looking at grade, just completely forget about the base metals. Now, a lot of silver deposits, they're a smattering of, this metal, that metal. So a lot of silver deposits have base metals. You want to look for the ones that are silver and gold. So if we're looking at how the market assesses silver ounces and the grade, and you're calculating equivalents, you can factor in gold into the equivalent, but just completely ignore the base metals. So you only want to look at silver. You only want to look at gold as a byproduct here. Just ignore the base metals because you throw in all these base metals and then all these low-grade deposits look like they have better grades. Just in tons of silver companies do this. Tons of them have a huge amount of base metals, but those aren't silver deposits. They're really base metals deposits. So when you're looking and you're calculating this, just ignore the base metals, focus on the silver, and secondly, focus on the gold because that's what actually gets valued, based on my research. Okay, now everything else is basically, in terms of silver exploration, is an optionality play. And grade is really the key determinant. I don't see a lot of deposits that are coming in, around 125 or 150 grams. It's really, you have some that are around 200 grams per ton that are close to that, and then everything else is below 100 grams per ton. So when you're below 125 grams per ton, you're really an optionality play. And for optionality plays, the key threshold is 100 million ounces of silver. And so these types of deposits were valued at no more than $1 per ounce. We had the peak at $28 to $30 silver. However, if we're thinking into the future and we're 2 or 3 years into the future and we get $50 silver, these optionality deposits are probably going to be valued at $2, $3 per ounce in the ground, maybe $4 per ounce in the ground in some cases if the grade is above 100. And so what you want to look for in most cases are really ounces and cheap. The combination of highest ounces and then cheapest stock. And then the threshold is important because something that has 100 million ounces of silver, that has some significant size to it, and the market loves size. So if you can find a silver deposit that has around 100 million ounces and it's trading, well below $1 per ounce, that's something that could have a lot of upside at $50 silver. Now, I have one silver optionality play that I'm holding that fits these parameters that I'm really excited about. I think it can definitely be a 10-bagger at $50 silver. So you have to look hard for these things. There's not many. But that basically wraps up what I'm looking at here as far as trying to find 10-baggers. You have to look at, what the type of company is. Is it a producer? Is it explorer? Is it really an optionality play? And then you can value that and value its potential, based on those thresholds that I talked about. Let me know what you think in the comments. Really appreciate you watching and listening to this video. Follow all my work at TheDailyGold.com. If you want to know what my favorite silver stocks are, head on over to TheDailyGold.com/premium and sign up, and I will let you know. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next week in more videos.